Hey guys, what's going on? MVPro38 here, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about Star Wars The Clone Wars Season 7. But first, happy Star Wars Day. May the 4th be with you. Star Wars Day, I hope you're all having fun, watching Star Wars, playing Star Wars games, doing whatever you can to celebrate, even though we are in quarantine, unfortunately. But yeah, let's get right into it. So today, May the 4th, this morning, Star Wars The Clone Wars Season 7, Episode 12, Victory and Death was released on Disney+. Just a quick spoiler warning, if you haven't seen the finale, or if you haven't watched any of Season 7 at all, I'm going to be talking big spoilers about the final 4 episodes of Season 7. Now, to start off, in Episode 9, Old Friends Not Forgotten, it opens up to Obi-Wan Kenobi and the 212th Clone Battalion on the planet of Urbana, fighting off the Separatists, as usual. They are in desperate need of reinforcements. They're pinned down, and Anakin, being the humble Jedi he is, comes in and says to Obi-Wan, "Oh, we finished our battle, so we're going to come help you with yours." He essentially fake surrenders and draws out the tactical droid, kills the tactical droid. His squadron, the 501st, along with help from the 212th, they end up defeating the Separatist army at that battle. Then Anakin gets a notification that someone using the codename Fulcrum is calling them. Now this ends up being Ahsoka. There's been a lot of problems with Ahsoka using this name so early because apparently according to the Ahsoka novel, she did not come up with that name till way later as far as the timeline is concerned. I took this as more of a notation to the fans to confirm that this is Ahsoka. Anakin and Obi-Wan get back to the ship. They see the hologram of Ahsoka and Bo-Katan, and they basically tell them what's going on Mandalore and that they need the Jedi's help. Ahsoka and Bo-Katan meet up with Obi-Wan and Anakin, and they discuss battle plans. Now, before Anakin and Obi-Wan leave to go save the Chancellor, as we see in the beginning of Revenge of the Sith, Anakin shows Ahsoka what the 501st did once they heard she was back. They painted the patterns of her face white and orange on their helmets as a sign of respect and loyalty to her. Right after this, Obi-Wan comes in giving them the news that the Chancellor's been kidnapped by General Grievous, and himself and Anakin need to go to Coruscant to save him, which is where we see them in Revenge of the Sith. As we can see in Revenge of the Sith, the Battle of Coruscant is well underway, and Obi-Wan and Anakin are significantly late to the battle by the time we see them in Revenge of the Sith. This is because they were talking to Ahsoka and Bo-Katan when they got the notification, and they were quite a ways away from Coruscant. Even with lightspeed technology, it still takes time for them to get there. Now, right before they leave, Anakin gives Ahsoka her lightsabers. The same one she had back in Season 5 and before that, but they're a little different. They're blue. Now, a lot of people are speculating why they're blue, how they turn blue, and that in the Ahsoka novel, she looks at her lightsabers and they're green. I really am not sure entirely why they're blue. I made a couple theories that maybe Anakin meditated with them and turned them blue, or maybe the color of the lightsaber is determined by the user. It kind of reflects their personality in a way. What I first thought is that during Ahsoka's time, apart from the Republic, from the Galactic Army of the Republic, from Anakin, her personality changed a little bit. What she experienced with the Martez twins changed her personality, changed her view on certain things. The Force changed the color of the crystals because her as a person changed. Now next we see Ahsoka, Bo-Katan, and half of the 501st, because Anakin divided the 501st, promoted Rex to commander. He took half the 501st to Coruscant with him, even though we don't see them until Order 66. And then the other half was with Rex and Ahsoka on Mandalore. We see Rex, Ahsoka, and Bo-Katan taking Mandalore from Prime Minister Almec and Maul. Now Maul, this was his plan all along. We don't discover that till the next episode, so I'll get back to that in a second. We see the three of them invading Mandalore. Ultimately, they are victorious. Ahsoka, with a handful of clones, including Rex and Jesse, who's very important later in these episodes, goes down into the Undercity after a battle, chasing down the rest of the Maul Death Watch warriors, including Gar Saxon, who also makes an appearance in Rebels as a Mandalorian warrior who aligned himself with the Empire. Now, they chase them down into the Undercity, and eventually it's an ambush. Maul reveals himself to Ahsoka, saying, "I was hoping for Kenobi, why are you here?" And that is where this episode ends. And we find out why he said that. Like I said, this was all planned to bring a Jedi to Mandalore to deal with him and his Death Watch warriors. Now, as this episode goes along, Maul eventually does get away. Ahsoka and her half of the 501st do, though, capture Prime Minister Almec and imprison him. Now, they go in to interrogate him in the prison. They ask him why did he want to draw Jedi here. And he says that he had a vision. And at first, Almec is toying with them. He's saying, "Oh, I can't remember what the vision was about." But then he gets shot by Gar Saxon. After he's shot, Ahsoka goes to get to his aid, and as he dies, he says the man in the vision was Skywalker, referring to Anakin Skywalker, her former master. The episode goes along, and we see more of the Siege of Mandalore. When Maul first stormed the tunnels, he had kidnapped Jesse and interrogated him to tell him who Ahsoka is. Because all we can see at the beginning of Phantom Apprentice is that Maul knows Ahsoka's name. Ahsoka Tano, is it? He says to her as he introduces himself to her. That's all he knows at the beginning of Phantom Apprentice. That's all he knows. Now, he kidnapped Jesse, one of the higher-ranking members of the 501st, and he uses the Force and interrogates him to learn everything about Ahsoka. The Siege of Mandalore progresses on the ground of the city, and Ahsoka and Bo-Katan go to the throne room, and they find Maul with Jesse there. He releases Jesse to them, and Jesse tells Ahsoka that he's sorry he told him everything about you, and Ahsoka understands, obviously. She knows that Maul used the Force, that there was nothing Jesse could have done. Now, as they see how bad the battle is getting, Bo-Katan leaves to go deal with the battle on the surface of the city in Mandalore. Ahsoka and Maul talk for a little bit. This leads to Maul revealing his plan to lure Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker here to kill Anakin Skywalker, because in his vision, he basically saw what happens to Anakin in Revenge of the Sith, that he turns to the dark side, becomes Darth Vader, and leads to the Empire. Now, Maul's reasons for this are not as pure-hearted as some might think at first. He wants to get payback on Palpatine for casting him out. As we did see in previous seasons of the Clone Wars, Maul was never meant to last as Darth Sidious' apprentice. It is discovered that Sidious was going to cast aside Maul one way or another for Dooku, for Anakin, and Maul would be an outsider. And also, Maul had no knowledge of the plot with the clones and Order 66. He had no knowledge of it whatsoever. So the whole point Maul is doing this to kill Anakin is not to keep the Force in balance, to save the galaxy. He wants to get back at his old master. Now, when Maul tells this to Ahsoka, she doesn't believe him, because she believes Anakin is her friend, a very kind and pure-hearted person, and she doesn't believe him. This ultimately results in them fighting, and oh my god, was this the best fight I have seen in Clone Wars ever. All the previous fights were not motion capture. They were completely 100% animated CGI. This fight was motion capture, and the big part of this was the guy they did the motion capture on was Ray Park, the person that played Maul in The Phantom Menace. So they went all out for this. They did motion capture for the battle, which was the best battle in Clone Wars. Did the best animation possible. The characters look amazing throughout all of Season 7, not just the final 4 episodes. It was incredible. The battle escalates to above the city. As Ahsoka and Darth Maul are fighting on the support beams above the city, after the battle on the ground is finished, the Renegade Maul Death Watch warriors are defeated. Rex looks up and notices Ahsoka and Maul fighting, so he sends ships up there to help Ahsoka. Maul knocks both of Ahsoka's lightsabers out of her hands down into the city below. Ahsoka is still able to defeat Maul despite of that. As he is about to jump to his ship and leave, she knocks him off of the support beams, but then catches him with the Force. And because she did this, that allowed Rex and his fellow clones time to get up there in the ships and subdue Maul. And that is where this episode ends. As the next episode, Shattered, begins, we see the aftermath of the Siege of Mandalore. The clones and the Republic are, in the end, victorious. We see Ahsoka and Bo-Katan talking. Bo-Katan says to Ahsoka, "You have succeeded where many others have failed," obviously referring to in the past where Obi-Wan Kenobi went to Mandalore. He leaves Mandalore defeated, and Maul is also defeated by Darth Sidious, but he eventually does come back And the story of how he comes back and takes over Mandalore is talked about in the Maul, Son of Dathomir comic, which talks about him and his story from when he was defeated by Darth Sidious in Season 5 to now. Now, after Bo-Katan and Ahsoka talk, Ahsoka goes to address the Jedi Council. Now, this meeting, before Ahsoka walks in, is taken exactly from Revenge of the Sith, starting with, "I sense a plot to destroy the Jedi. The dark side of the Force surrounds the Chancellor by Mace Windu," which is obviously where they're beginning to discover Order 66, or beginning to realize that something like Order 66 is in play. Now, in this meeting, Ahsoka tells them that she subdued Maul as a citizen, not as a Jedi. And she asks about where Anakin is, and Mace Windu tells her that he went to tell the Chancellor about the news of General Grievous. She asks him more questions, and Mace Windu quickly shuts her down, saying that is for members of the Galactic Republic. Now, all the Jedi on the Hollow meeting sign off except for Master Yoda. He eventually says, "More to say, have you? A message for Skywalker, perhaps?" Ahsoka pauses for a second, but ultimately says, "I'll tell him myself." Next, we see Maul being loaded onto Ahsoka's ship, being ready to be transferred to Coruscant. Now, Maul is inside a device that was made by Mandalorians back in the days of the war with the Mandalorians and the Jedi. This device is how, back in those days, Mandalorians would imprison and subdue Jedi from the war. They load Maul onto the ship, and they ultimately leave Mandalore, and that is the last we see of Mandalore. The next thing we see is a scene that was actually released before this episode, is Rex and Ahsoka on the bridge of the ship, talking about how the clones view the war, and how they have mixed feelings about it, saying without it, they wouldn't exist, but some people wish it never happened. A lot of mixed feelings, and Ahsoka ultimately says the Republic could not have asked for better soldiers, and nor I a better friend. Next up, Rex gets notified of an incoming transmission. Now, this transmission is Darth Sidious saying those famous 3 words that I'll get to in a moment. Before we see the transmission, we see Ahsoka on the bridge. Now, she is getting a tremor in the Force about what happened in Palpatine's office, where Anakin goes to the office, sees Mace Windu confronting Palpatine and about to kill him, and ultimately where Anakin turns to the dark side. Now, a small detail I actually noticed about this was that it's not in real time. By the time Ahsoka is getting this tremor, that entire scene was already finished, because there's several details to support this. One, the timing in the scene versus the timing of when we see Ahsoka see it. This scene takes significantly longer to play out in Revenge of the Sith in real time versus when it does when Ahsoka hears it. From Palpatine saying, "You must choose," to Anakin saying, "What have I done?" In Revenge of the Sith, this scene takes about a minute or two, which is really not, in retrospect, it's not that long. In Clone Wars, this scene is under 30 seconds. From, again, "You must choose," to "What have I done?" And also, another piece of evidence to support this scene is that, in Revenge of the, to support that this scene is not in real time when Ahsoka hears it, is that in Revenge of the Sith, after this happens, Palpatine says to Anakin, "You're fulfilling your destiny." He tells them that he's the only one with no knowledge of the plot to kill him, and they talk for a little while, saying that all Jedi have to be killed, even though he's had this planned for years. And even here, we don't see him say, "Execute Order 66. That comes after the next scene, with Anakin marching on the Jedi Temple with his part of the 501st. Because remember, the 501st was divided in Old Friends Not Forgotten, half of it going with Rex and Ahsoka to Mandalore, half of it going with Anakin to Coruscant. After that scene, we then get Palpatine in a completely different room from when he and Anakin killed Mace Windu. In a completely different room, contacting Cody first, saying, "Execute Order 66. Obviously, some time has passed between these two moments. Probably not that long, only 5 or 10 minutes, and for Palpatine to get to the other room and contact the clone commanders and captains and tell them that Order 66 has been activated. Now, back in the Clone Wars episode, right after we hear the end of that scene in Clone Wars, it immediately goes to Rex being told, "Execute Order 66 by Sidious." As you can probably see if you paid close attention enough, or if you went back and watched it as I was saying this, there is a significant difference between how this was laid out in Clone Wars, between how this was laid out in Revenge of the Sith, and obviously it was not in real time. Ahsoka was hearing all of that after it happened in Revenge of the Sith. Now next, we obviously see Order 66 has been activated. Ahsoka goes to Rex and then immediately notices something is wrong. He dropped his helmet as the two clones that are guarding the door that Rex is in start to aim at Ahsoka, about to shoot her. Rex says, "Stop. I'll do it." Now, originally, if this was Order 66 control chip taking over, he wouldn't have said that. But that was Rex's actual self holding on and fighting Order 66. Because as we can see immediately after that, he says, find him, Fives, find him. Which is a reference to the end of Season 6, where Tup and Fives experienced a malfunction of Order 66, where Tup accidentally executed a Jedi and Fives went nuts trying to figure out what the hell happened. After this, we basically see a chase scene of Ahsoka and the clones throughout the entire ship. Ahsoka lets Maul out as a distraction for her to be able to get around more easily. Ahsoka finds some droids to help her. Using these droids, she accesses old files, uses Anakin's code to get past a security lock on one of the files, explaining to her what happened. Now that code is pretty interesting. One of the files is sealed, which is a grievance report by Captain Rex on him explaining what happened, and the code she uses is actually the date of the original release of the Clone Wars animated film back in 2008. 8108, August 1st, 2008 is the day that that movie was released. After this, she watches it, she goes and finds Rex, knocks him out, takes him to the medical bay, still being chased by clones after she gets Rex. She's being chased by clones, gets Rex to the medical bay, seals the door, and they begin trying to find the inhibitor chip and remove it from him. Now, they do 2 scans. These 2 scans prove ineffective. And then Ahsoka touches Rex's head, says, "I am one with the Force, and the Force is with me," which is a quote from Rogue One, a Star Wars story. I'm probably saying this wrong, but Chirrut Imwe says, "I'm one with the Force, and the Force is with me," a lot throughout that movie. And when she says this, while she's touching Rex's forehead, they find the chip and they get it out of him. And he tells Ahsoka that this Order 66, the inhibitor chips, is through the entire Grand Army of the Republic. And that is where the episode cuts out. Now, the next episode, the finale, is how we see Ahsoka and Rex escape. During this last episode, they were in hyperspace. And as I said before, Ahsoka released Maul from captivity as a distraction for her to get around more easily. Maul eventually goes and destroys the hyperdrive, which knocks him out of hyperspace with the ship severely damaged. Ahsoka and Rex come up with a plan to get to the hangar bay, get to a ship, open the doors, and get out. But unfortunately, the clones beat them there. Now, before they do that, Maul has another encounter with some of the clones. He closes one of the doors on a clone's arm and gets his communicator, which is on his forearm. And he has this throughout the entire time. Now back to where we are in Now back to Ahsoka and Rex. They are at the hangar bay. They open the doors and they see a ship, but they also see that the rest of the clones on the Republic ship beat them there. And they are ready and willing to execute both Rex and Ahsoka. Now, at this point, Rex is saying, we're going to have to fight our way out. Ahsoka's saying, no, she doesn't want to hurt them. Rex is saying, they're ready to kill us. And they basically go on. Rex is saying, those are soldiers, my brothers. But he's still willing to kill them to get out because they are not themselves. And it's either him or them at this point, is how he sees it. And Rex starts crying. As Ahsoka takes his helmet off, we see a tear drip from his eye. Ahsoka, in the end, comes up with a plan, which is Rex faking that he was captured, bringing Ahsoka in, and trying to convince Jessie, who is leading the clones at this time, because Rex has gone AWOL. Ahsoka, because she is no longer a Jedi, nor is she a member of the Grand Army of the Republic, she does not count under the terms of Order 66. But then Jessie says that they are under special orders from Darth Sidious to execute Ahsoka Tano as well. Now, obviously, this goes how you would expect it to go. It ends in a gunfight. In the end, Ahsoka and Rex get on a Y-Wing. Now, Rex gets on first. He pilots the ship. But the starship that they're on ends up crashing on a nearby planet. And during its descent, once it enters the atmosphere, is when Rex gets in and starts piloting the ship. Ahsoka does not get in the ship in time. Now Ahsoka is still alive. She is falling with all of the ship and the debris. Rex ultimately picks her up in midair. And that is when we see the ship crash. Now immediately after this, it goes to a scene of the entire ship going from the back all the way to the front to Ahsoka. And we see the helmets of the clones that were on that ship being held up by stakes in the ground, which was done by Ahsoka to honor the clones as who they were, not what Order 66 made them to be. Now also at this time, Rex was finding supplies from the scavenged ship to get out of there, and to ultimately leave the planet that they landed on. Before they leave, Ahsoka takes out her lightsaber, looks at it, and drops it. Now this is very important because the scene after this is an Imperial ship descending on that planet. Darth Vader, Anakin Skywalker, has fully turned to the dark side. He is Darth Vader. Now, an important thing to know is this is years and years later. This is years and years later. We know this because he walks up to the ship, sees the wreckage, looks on the ground, sees Ahsoka's lightsaber. Now, not only is everything completely covered in snow, but Ahsoka's lightsaber is very badly damaged, and it was not badly damaged when she originally dropped it on the planet. Points to the fact that a lot of time has gone on, and this lightsaber has been sitting in the ground for a lot of time, been stepped on by animals, local wildlife, the weather, as we can see it's snowing, the weather's probably taking its toll on it, and it's old, it looks rusty, covered in snow. Now Darth Vader picks up this lightsaber, ignites it, sees that it is indeed Ahsoka's, the same lightsaber that he gave back to her when they last saw each other, and it is right here where the episode closes. The Clone Wars has ended. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, be sure to smash that like button, leave a comment below, and remember to subscribe, help my channel grow to what I know it can become. Happy Star Wars Day. May the Force be with you as always, and I will see you in the next video.